Well, a very good afternoon and welcome back to the next session for our MACH 2022 preview week. For those of you joining us again from this morning, I hope you had a good lunch. For those joining us for the first time, welcome. We have got a number of sessions running. This is our last session of today. I would welcome you to pop your questions throughout the presentation into the chat question box, which on my screen is on the right-hand side, but might not be on yours. And then what we'll do is at the end, I'll just relay those questions to Juergen as we go through. So without further ado, I'd like to introduce Professor Juergen Maier, who is chair of the Digital Catapult, co-chair of Made Smarter, and serves on the Industrial Strategy Council, which advises government on industrial strategy. Juergen is the former chief executive of Siemens UK, having held the position from July 2014 to December 2019. Over his 33-year career with Siemens, he held a number of senior roles within the company, both in the UK and Germany. Juergen is a passionate advocate of rebalancing the UK economy and has supported many UK-wide initiatives championing manufacturing and engineering skills. In 2017, he was asked by the government to lead a review into how to increase digitalisation of the UK manufacturing sector. The subsequent report led to the creation of the Joint Industry and Government Made Smarter Commission, which Juergen co-chairs with the BEIS Business Secretary. So, Professor Juergen Maier, over to you.
Well, thank you very much, James, for that too kind introduction. It's brilliant to be addressing and hopefully speaking with many of you who are joining us today. And what a shame, isn't it, that we can't all be meeting at MACH, that wonderful exhibition and event, which I certainly always enjoy coming to, where we're celebrating the best of British manufacturing, British machining, and such a shame that we're having to do it all virtually. But we'll be back in 2022, and I'm sure we'll be back stronger as a manufacturing sector too. But for now, it's another virtual discussion. As James said, please do pop in questions. I mean, we've actually laid out a full hour for this section, and I'm certainly not going to be speaking for a full hour, because that would be quite tiring for me and pretty damn boring for you, I'm sure. So I'll plan to speak for about 15-20 minutes, and if it raises any thoughts, questions, let's have a good discussion, whether it's specifically about Made Smarter and our sort of growing our fourth industrial revolution, or indeed whether that is broader about industrial strategy, and any insights that you or I might have from the work that we do. Now, in terms of Made Smarter, I thought I'd title this "Made Smarter: Supporting a Green Industrial Revolution." I thought that's the title that I would talk around. I mean, I'll start off by saying, you know, it's certainly not going to be easy. I don't know how many of you tuned in to the Economist session earlier on today, but I thought I'd just tune in myself and listen. You know, whilst I absolutely love optimism, and of course I know and I believe that manufacturing will do what it always does, which is to innovate and to find a way through this tough time of both the challenges of COVID and of Brexit. But I actually thought that the outlook looked slightly rosy. I think it might be more challenging and might take us a little bit longer, especially for those, and I know that many of you will be sitting in supply chains of aero and of automotive companies, and you know, and not just are they struggling with the lower demand that COVID has caused, as well as some of the Brexit issues that have been caused into supply chains, but also there is just a significant restructuring of the sectors going on, an accelerated and a positive restructuring, which is to turn those sectors into greener, lower carbon sectors. So the whole aviation towards electric, hybrid, hydrogen flying, obviously the move to electric cars, hydrogen transportation. So I mean, these are going to be massive trends, which are going to take quite some transitioning. But of course, this also creates opportunities. And that's what I'd like to focus on for this chat. And I do see sort of 4 key opportunities or 4 levers, if you like, that we can pull to make the best of our green manufacturing recovery, and well, hopefully more than a recovery, hopefully a bit of a revolution. And the first is, of course, decarbonisation, and is the green economy. So that would be my first one that I'm going to talk about briefly. The second then is technology, research and innovation. So, you know, doing, quite frankly, more of that and moving more into either adopting higher technology in our manufacturing operations, or creating technology which is also more linked to low carbon technology. So the whole R&D and technology and innovation agenda I'll talk about a little bit. Then my third lever is the adoption of all of that technology. So it's fantastic creating lots of new technology, new IoT systems, virtual reality systems, new 3D printing capabilities, you name it, robotics, all of that technology, but it all only really has an impact on the competitiveness of our manufacturing if manufacturing up and down the country is adopting it at a faster pace. So that will be my third item that I talk about. And then the fourth lever is one, it's more of a leadership, a cultural, and developing our workforces and the skills of our people. So those are the 4 levers that I will briefly address. I mean, I won't do any of them justice, but I'll talk about those levers, and like I say, hopefully that will raise some thoughts and some questions for discussion with you as well. The first one is the green opportunity, and there is no question that COVID has focused the minds. I mean, I think we were getting closer anyway, but you know, I think the global mood, and indeed, I think the change of leadership in the USA, and with the USA now rightly rejoining the Paris Climate Accord, you know, I think the push for everything we do being greener and decarbonising is absolutely going to be forefront of any priority. So I do think that we as manufacturers have 2 opportunities. One is to think about our technology and the products that we are creating and selling, and whether they have a decarbonising impact on the economy. So you know, are we developing products which are going to be used in the future hydrogen revolution, or in what might be the new nuclear modular reactor type sector. So really looking at our manufacturing operations and maybe adjusting them to be either suppliers to those sectors, or indeed to be key strategic parts of those more emerging sectors that are going to be created. And then the second thing is, of course, and I think it's the one that we often ignore too much, is that it isn't just about the technologies that we produce. I mean, when I was working at Siemens, I was always hugely proud of the wind turbines that we produced and put out there. I mean, those are obviously hugely decarbonising, and indeed creates many opportunities for people in the supply chains. But actually, as interesting is how efficient are the manufacturing processes, and how efficient is the supply chain that actually creates those wind turbines, or whatever it is, the products which you are making. And I do think we need to put a much sharper focus on that efficiency of supply chains and efficiency of our manufacturing processes. And of course, technology can help us massively with that. So you know, better supply chain optimization software with better data to better manage supply and demand, to optimize supply chains better. And of course, within our manufacturing operations, technologies to optimize energy efficiency within the manufacturing process. And you know, you'll all be aware of the technologies, and many of which are available today, and we're not implementing fast enough. And then there are technologies which are maybe still emerging, that we need to be adopting more into our manufacturing. So, you know, I wanted to position the whole thing around our responsibility really as manufacturers to green our operations as much as possible. And indeed, Made Smarter, which I'm going to talk about more in a moment, is also sort of moving its focus to how can the technology that we help create really help improve the decarbonising of manufacturing. So that's the whole sort of green agenda, which I think is very important. So let me move on to the second point, which is about research and innovation, which of course all links to the green agenda, because you know a lot of what we will do as we research and innovate either our products or our manufacturing processes will also be focused on greening the economy. So I mean, on research and innovation, I mean, the good news, as we all know, is that you know, we are sat in a country where we do have a pretty vibrant research and innovation ecosystem. We have many of the world's leading universities, and having been a key member of the people that helped create some of our catapults in the UK, and a great supporter of our catapult, I'm also very proud of the whole catapult movement that we have created over the last decade or so, which I think is so important for our manufacturing ecosystem. As a matter of fact, it's interesting, you know, even 5 years ago, you would go on a conversation like this and, you know, you'd have to explain what a catapult is. And I mean, there might be one or two of you that are not aware so much of the catapults, but actually the awareness within the manufacturing community and hopefully also the engagement has risen dramatically. And Made Smarter wants to be a key and active part of that ecosystem, and we're going to do that, or we are doing it actually in a number of ways. So the first thing to say is that the Made Smarter innovation program is now funded to the tune of 147 million by government money, which is great news. We're also have got commitments from British industry that will be matched as we go through the various innovation programs to at least the same level. So we'll have an innovation pot of around 300 million, with which we can hopefully create more advanced digital technology for UK manufacturing, which is of course what the whole focus of Made Smarter is about. The whole focus is about advanced industrial digital technologies. We're focusing that money in a number of ways, and just let me talk through them very briefly. So for those of you not so close yet to the Made Smarter program, to give you some understanding, but you'll be able to find all of this on madesmarter.uk or on the Innovate UK website, or indeed on the websites of the Digital Catapult and the High Value Manufacturing Catapult. So and we're all working closely in collaboration on this work. So the first thing that we have launched is a Made Smarter Technology Accelerator program. So that is now out and it's launched. That one you will find on the Digital Catapult website. It's funded by UK Research and Innovation, so UKRI or Innovate UK, and it's delivered by the Digital Catapult. The program basically tries to bring together a number of manufacturers who describe a challenge. So we've got a challenge about the way in which we want to manage or control or collect data, do data analytics in our manufacturing operation, whatever the challenge is, although we have obviously categorized them in a number of key areas such as intelligent factory management. And those challenges are created. And then what we do with this is we now try and link it up with some more mature technology companies, but very importantly, also with tech startup companies. So what we're trying to do with this tech accelerator is to give an easier opportunity for tech startups, and that could be tech startups. Again, they could be in data management, they could be in additive manufacturing, in robotics, in augmented reality, in 3D printing. You know, whatever the technology is to help answer the challenge, we will help bring those tech startups into the challenge. So it's sort of like a connecting program, but of course there is money available as well. So each challenge gets funded with a £20,000 grant to then try and resolve those challenges. And the challenges that make the most progress will then have the opportunity to apply for a further 100K's worth of funding to then hopefully help scale up that technology and allow the startups to develop and to create new companies that ultimately can service manufacturing here in the UK and abroad. I mean, these should hopefully become new technology companies that also become exporters, as well as supporting our UK manufacturing. So that's one area which we're developing. It's only just started, but the first program, the first round of the program has been very well subscribed. We've had lots of applications, and there will be future rounds where we'll be launching more of these accelerators, and they will be open for you to get involved, lay down challenges, or indeed be a technology company that helps resolve those challenges. So the Digital Catapult is the place to go for that. And another key part of the Made Smarter program that we have just closed the competition for is to create a couple initially, but we'll hopefully do more as we go on, what we're calling digital innovation hubs. So these will be hubs, and there'll be initially two. One of the hubs we want to be very focused on the sort of the smart connected factory, and what we want to do is create a demonstrator at scale. You know, and we've already got some of this in our high value manufacturing catapults, but we want to really focus these even more on digital tech and create them in such a way that people, especially small to medium sized companies, can come and engage in these demonstrators and try out some of their manufacturing processes, how to connect it into an Internet of Things data acquisition platform, how to do some remote monitoring, or again, whatever your challenge is. And the second innovation hub will be one that will focus on the digital supply chain. So the interconnectivity of supply chains and optimizing those supply chains. These hubs will not be new buildings or anything. We will, you know, we've asked for people who want to do these to bid from existing innovation areas, but to create a demonstrator within. So it could be within a catapult, it could be within a manufacturer who wants to put one of these innovation hubs within their factory and make it available. Of course, it has to be an open platform type innovation system, but the chances are it will be within an organization like a catapult going forward. So that's the second thing we're doing as part of this innovation program. And the third thing that we're doing is as part of the overall Innovate UK program of innovation competitions, which I'm sure many of you are aware of. There will be Made Smarter competitions that will be open for companies to apply for grant funding for specific competitions. And we've already had two of those. One was started last year actually and went into early this year, and another one was launched this year, which was focused specifically on digital supply chains and digital interconnectivity. So about 30 million has been invested in those competitions so far. We've got about 14 projects which are now live and active through those About 80 companies are involved. I'm pleased to say that 35 of those are small to medium-sized companies, and working through those challenges. Very important as well, we're monitoring how much money is actually going to SMEs, and I'm pleased to say that more than half of that initial money has gone to SMEs as opposed to larger companies, and that was always an aim of what we wanted to achieve with Made Smarter. So that hopefully gives you a little bit of a flavour of some of the things that are happening in that sort of innovation ecosystem with Made Smarter to help create more technology for advanced digital manufacturing. The third lever that I want to talk about is technology adoption. And whilst the creation of technology, as I talked about previously, might not be for everybody, you might not want to get involved to innovate the next generation of robotics or data analytics platforms or even artificial intelligence. You may just want to adopt ready-made technology. And I would say that that's for everybody. I think if you're a manufacturer right now and you're not on the journey or thinking about the journey, I think you should be. I think it's absolutely vital that everybody thinks about how do I adopt more advanced digital technologies to improve my operations and my competitiveness. There is some good news, which is when we did the Made Smarter review, only about 20% of UK manufacturing of our sample size at the time said that they knew anything near enough about the sorts of technologies we were talking about, the ones I'm quoting here, robotics, additive manufacturing, data platforms, etc. And even less than those were actually on the journey of adoption. And it's interesting that we have made massive strides on that. So the latest Make UK survey that asked similar questions, the response was that 80% of UK manufacturing now believes that they are on a journey and will be sort of fourth industrial revolution enabled, if you like. So at least on the journey of adopting 4IR technologies by 2025. So that to me was great news, and I do actually think the pandemic has focused people's minds on that, and that's something we've also found with the Made Smarter adoption program. The adoption program so far has been only open to manufacturers in the northwest of England, because that's where we received money to do the pilot. Everything I talked about earlier is completely national, but this is a regional adoption program. It was funded by 20 million, and it's a program which provides a combination of advice, independent advisors. So the Northwest Made Smarter team has got some independent technology advisors that can work with companies to say, how do you adopt an IoT technology platform, or how do you work with robotics? So that's advice. The second thing is there are grants available for small to medium-sized companies, and the third thing, there is also an upskilling and a training program that's available, especially for again, for small to medium-sized companies to take part in. The Northwest program has engaged with 1,000 SMEs in the 2 years that it's been running now, and we're tracking how much productivity and how much ultimately more output measured in GVA, gross value added, that is creating, and we're pretty confident that through tracked impact independent assessments that we're going to reach a target by the end of the program, which was targeted to be 3 years, that we will help create more than 100 million more GVA, and with that lots more jobs. We believe we've already helped create 750 more jobs in the northwest of England through this program, and we'd like to do lots more. Now, we've been a bit slow at getting to being able to roll this out into other regions. I'm pleased to say that we've actually got a meeting this week with the new Secretary of State of Business, Kwasi Kwarteng, and we will have a discussion with him about some further money to be able to roll out into other regions, and we are getting some positive signals that we will be able to support other key manufacturing regions like the Midlands, Yorkshire, Humber, and the Northeast. So that's some of what's going on there. There's a brilliant number of case studies that are going on, and I love the case studies because they range from, you know, companies that are delivering kitchens and furniture using better technology to engage the customer in terms of virtual design of a kitchen, and then using that data to feed into the manufacturing process. So nice simple examples like that, just slightly more complex sort of examples where machining manufacturers are increasingly using sensors and Internet of Things to be able to do remote monitoring and therefore remote support to customers. As a particular customer with machines in the powder and bulk solids manufacturing processes that has engaged with Made Smarter. But you can see all of these case studies if you go on to madesmarter.uk. That's our overall sort of website, and there's some great case studies about the work that's being done, and we'd like to be able to roll that out more across other parts. If you are in other parts and you're not able to apply for grants, there is actually some good tools and support available on the website also. And then the final category just to talk about is about leadership and about culture. And quite frankly, what we as leaders and manufacturers need to be doing to really help manufacturing to improve and to recover. And of course, the first thing is to do what we're doing here in this seminar, which is to take leadership, which is to show support, which is to encourage your businesses, but also businesses in your supply chains and your communities to get on the journey of digital adoption if you aren't already. I think it's important to really make sure that we always focus the mind on investments. If we're going to make them, we should make sure that they're also greening and decarbonising what we do within our manufacturing operations. And I do think it's time. You know, it's been a tough time in the pandemic. A lot of people have been struggling with orders, with cash flow, but you know, we are going to have to invest as we now hopefully see that upturn that we saw from our economist earlier today. And so there is a responsibility on manufacturing operations to be able to invest in the sorts of technologies that we're talking about. I mean, we are talking to government about what sort of support schemes might be available to make that a bit easier. But at the end of the day, you know, I'm pretty certain that unless we find a way to invest more, it will be harder to be competitive in our manufacturing operations globally, because of course many manufacturers around the globe are on this journey, and evidence, certainly when we did the Made Smarter review, told us that the UK wasn't exactly ahead of the race, although I have a sense that we are very much catching up. The other place to invest is, of course, in skills, and to make sure we really do help our people upskill. I mean, for some companies, the pandemic has been an opportunity to do that. Obviously, it depends on your manufacturing operations. Some manufacturing operations have been busier than others haven't, and that's been an opportunity to upskill people. We have helped, as Made Smarter, create a platform which is called Engage. And if you go onto the Ingenuity website, Ingenuity being a key skills agency for manufacturing in the UK, there is a platform on there that is collecting training material from existing providers in all of the technology areas I've spoken about, and is delivering free, at least for now, training material for people to help up them skills. But there are many opportunities to upskill in those areas. Actually, later this week, I'm speaking at the first Industrial Digitalisation Masters Programme in the UK at Manchester Metropolitan University. So we're actually getting degree courses in Made Smarter, which is absolutely brilliant. And my final remark is you know, this is about global competitiveness. It is about survival, quite frankly, as we come out of this pandemic. And you know, I certainly see it as a bit of a responsibility to just be as supportive as I possibly can be. And I think the more of an ecosystem we create where people help one another to really innovate and upskill our people to be a stronger part of this fourth industrial revolution, the better chance we have got of getting through these tough times, but more importantly, emerging out of them stronger. So it's taken me slightly longer actually, but cantered through a few of the important things of creating a greener fourth industrial revolution in the UK. And what Made Smarter can do to help, and our responsibility within it. So thank you very much for listening, and I'm very much looking forward to a bit of a Q&A, which James will help with, because he's got the questions, I haven't got them. So look forward to that. Thank you, James.
No, Juergen, thank you very much. I think that's really interesting to kind of see where the UK is positioned in the whole story of the fourth industrial revolution. Number of questions that have come through. What I will probably do is take these in order, if that's okay, because then it kind of mirrors the order that you went through a moment ago. So the first question we have says, we've made leaps and bounds in our efforts to implement a green agenda on land. But is it conceivable that renewables can provide a suitable power source for aircraft and ships?
You were breaking up a little bit there, but I think can you hear me okay, James? Sorry,
yeah, you're coming through relatively clear.
Yeah, so I think the question was, we're making some quite good progress in our sort of manufacturing processes, but the question was, can we really create the new power source in transportation, aero and broader? Was that the question?
Yeah, that's perfect.
I mean, my view is yes. Well, I mean, to be honest with you, I'm going to say it quite differently, and I says I don't think we really have a choice. Certainly in my time at Siemens, one of my real pet and interest projects was when we were delivering technology to support electric aviation. And I remember meeting a number of people in aerospace industries who told me this is absolute nonsense and it will never fly. And that was only a decade ago. And a decade later, you know, there is now the opportunity for those electric planes to be flying, you know, not you know, large sort of 50+ seater aircraft, but small aircraft for domestic routes is now very possible. Now, of course, for that to go further, the answer has to be hydrogen. You know, and I personally believe that there is a huge opportunity for hydrogen, and I think that this is a space where the innovation race is on. Now, this is a little bit less about the Made Smarter territory, because Made Smarter is more about, you know, helping automate and digitize the manufacturing processes. What we're now talking about is actually creating the new technologies that will ultimately power aircraft. And of course, there is opportunities for hydrogen in cars and in long-range transport as well. So, you know, in answer to the question, absolutely yes. And I think as a country, we have to get even more serious about it and plough, quite frankly, billions of R&D money into this to make sure that we do come out, at least as part of leaders in the pack, because we certainly know in Europe that France and Germany are going to compete with us in that territory very heavily. It'd be nice if I knew who were asking these questions, actually, and then I don't know, you're welcome to. It's a bit hard sort of on this sort of communication, but please do come back again if you have a different view. But I think it's a great opportunity.
I think leading on from that, the second question we've had says, using wind energy as an opportunity, UK manufacturing companies need to make significant investments in high-end plant and equipment, so like China, USA, Denmark have already done, if they're to efficiently manufacture critical components competitively. We already have the appetite and capability to provide innovative solutions, but what will the government do to secure the business for UK manufacturers and support companies so they can confidently make such investments and be guaranteed enough business to ensure profitable returns?
Yeah, it's a great question, this, and one that, you know, I was very close to. And, you know, when I was at Siemens, I was, you know, not just a supporter of creating an offshore wind revolution in the UK, which, by the way, in the end we achieved. It was a long journey to get there, and it's fantastic to see what we created. But I was passionate about creating exactly those sorts of opportunities that you, who just asked that question, raised. Now, the truth is we were a bit slow to the party because you know, UK government didn't quite see the need to create a strong industrial strategy around this. But the answer to your question is you know, a sector like that needs then to create a strong industrial strategy. I think a lot of it starts with research and development. You know, it is actually harder, I think, to say, look, we're going to now take a particular component, a gearing component from the nacelle that currently sits in a Siemens or in a GE or whatever, whoever wind turbine it is, and we're going to move that from Denmark or Germany to the UK. I think better is to be looking out, you know, where is some of the technology going to emerge to over the next 5 to 10 years, and what will that create in terms of new technology and new parts that don't exist today, and then try and move into the supply chain of those. And the best way to do that is to engage in sort of earlier research activities, and then look at what components emerge, and then get into the manufacture of those. And there is now a research and innovation centre set up in Hull. Again, I mean, I remember being a strong caller for this. The centre is called Aura, and it provides that sort of an opportunity for people to engage. Having said that, I do believe the government also needs to do more, especially in this time of pandemic, and that is to then also provide grants to companies in the supply chains who have the capability. And we did have a go at this previously with a program called AMSCI that people might remember, and that was more around the automotive area. But I think we need to create such supply chain programs again, and also, of course, incentives such as capital allowances, and you know, and it may also be that we also actually help people in the way that they're having to pay back loans from the COVID pandemic in a longer term and helpful way, to release some capital within your own operations to be investing in this sort of area. So, you know, it is an area where we're lobbying hard for, and please also through the MTA, through Make UK, through all those organisations, you know, keep lobbying hard that we do get more of that sort of support, because we do need it.
Yeah, I think really strong message there, and you know, it's a great opportunity for people to come and talk to us. We're obviously connected with various associations, as well as Smarter as well. So yeah, please use those channels. You've touched on it a couple of times, obviously mentioning the pandemic as we are going through. With the amazing story of the ventilator challenge, do you think that's been utilised or it's been used and recognised sufficiently as a benchmark for collaboration and digital technologies?
No, I don't think it has yet. I mean, the great news is that a lot of people know about it. And I mean, I personally, you know, wasn't part of it. I've just heard all of the great stories. And of course, I know a lot of the companies involved, and I saw the enthusiasm from a lot of people that I know within it. But I do think we ought to write case studies up like that, and create the learning from it a little bit more, because it was just quite miraculous actually of what was achieved in terms of people redesigning. I mean, it wasn't a brand new, it was an existing design, but it was redesigned and optimized, all done virtually, in virtual software. You know, and the whole manufacturing and assembly line was all created and simulated virtually in software. And the first time people came together was when all of that had been done, you know, to then lay out the manufacturing line. And of course, COVID restrictions had been taken into consideration. And hey presto, they went into manufacturing. And I was talking to people, you know, these people had all been working virtually. And the first time they met is when they got onto the shop floor. And there was a couple of places where it was being done. One of them was the Airbus plant. And, you know, and it was just an unbelievable journey. And yeah, and whoever asked that question, you're so right. You know, we must all infuse and love and embrace and learn from these stories, because these things we can turn into our real life manufacturing. So yeah, fantastic stories.
The next question we've had in says, how can we break the reluctance of many of the UK's SMEs to invest in capital equipment? There are a small pocket whose sort of default behaviour is a mentality of kind of, well, we'll employ the low cost, flexible contract operators to undertake manufacturing tasks. But how do we break that sort of behaviour?
Yeah, I mean, the only way that I found of trying to help it is to help create leadership programs around this. And the Northwest Pilot Made Smarter program has now launched these, working together with Lancaster University. Obviously, as we launch this in other regions, we'll work with other institutions. And that is really to encourage, you know, owners, managing directors, operations directors, to come on these programs, you know, and just learn more, not so much about the technology, but about the business model opportunities and why this is so important. And what that learning program has shown is that, you know, a lot of, and there has been, and again, go on madesmarter.uk and have a look. And there are some brilliant stories on there where people have been inspired through those learning programs. And of course, part of it is through the learning itself, but part of it, quite frankly, is just through the networking. There is a mentoring program attached to that. Then of course, you know, you can go and do some best practice visits and see what the ventilator challenge did, maybe as an example, you know. And I think it is just infusing people. You know, and we do have a cultural issue. I mean, there is no doubt about it. I've often talked about this. You know, I've worked predominantly in the UK, but I did work in Germany also. And there is just a different mindset. You know, when you go to a German machine building company or any middle-size engineering or manufacturing company, there is generally speaking, not always, but there is a stronger appetite to want to invest in the latest and be part of the latest. And in the UK, that exists sometimes, but very often what exists is, you know, almost the other way around. It's that, you know, well, and I honestly, I mean, I had some great fun at Siemens where, you know, I was sort of working with customers where they were saying, you know, we'd like to keep this technology going for another 20 years, you know, and I'm like, no, you know, this is going obsolete. Oh, well, we'll buy, you know, spare parts for another 10 years. And I'm like, you know, why would you do that? And, you know, and so these are cultural issues. And in the end, I think it's really leadership. And the incentives that we talked about before, and it's those that have to come together. Yeah.
And again, I know you've mentioned it a few times. If you're an SME and you would like to get involved with Made Smarter, how do you initiate those discussions? Is it best through the website, bidding for the competitions? What's the best route?
Yeah, it's get involved. I mean, the great news is we have now got the competitions up and running. I mean, the next competition now, well, the Made Smarter Technology Accelerator is still running. Although I think that's getting to a close. The digital supply chain competition closed in January, and the next one that will open, which won't be until the summer now, the next one that will open will be the competition around the smart factory. So that's now any digital technology within the factory. There will be a new competition opening for that in the summer, and then these competitions will roll, and those will always be on the Innovate UK website, or the madesmarter.uk website is a good place to go as well.
Great stuff, thank you very much. At the moment, there are no further questions that have come in, so I will hang on for a couple of minutes just in case anyone else wants to, if that's okay.
It's all good. Is there anybody on the on the panel who has engaged with the Made Smarter program and in any of the competitions or anything at the moment? Maybe just give them a minute. It'd be interesting to see if there is actually anybody who comes through. But we're hoping it's something that will broaden out and engage with many more people as we go forward.
Sure. I mean, have you seen an increase, during COVID times? Have you seen an acceleration in that because of the use of digital technology and people, I guess, not having the option? They're having to go virtual.
Yeah, it was a little bit like that slide we saw from The Economist this morning, actually. So initially it dipped, so there was quite a high rate of the engagement was going up before pandemic, and like I said, it was 1,000 companies now engaged, and then it dropped off completely. But it rose quite quickly again as people saw that it was this sort of technology that could actually help them through the pandemic. Especially the key area was remote monitoring and but also remote work instructions. I mean, we know that there are still companies, who are sort of, putting paperwork instructions onto the shop floor. Hopefully not that many these days, but so to digitize that, we did see coming through as quite a big quick spike, and then it went all the way up again. And then interestingly, as the second lockdown happened, actually it did drop off a little bit, and now we're seeing it rise again. So it's gone in, so it's gone in that. But overall, I think the sort of the appetite and people knowing that they need to do this, that has definitely risen without a question. I guess it's now doing it.
Sure.
Good. How are we?
Just one other question that's come through is, do you think that we can act as a better advocate for engineering in order to change attitudes in the UK?
I'm assuming that you're talking there about, just a general, as a narrative in the nation as the importance of engineering. I'm assuming you're.
I guess so. Also we as MTA. I guess the two questions are linked.
Yeah. Well, and look, the answer, it goes without saying, yes. And I mean, there is no question that this country, really since the sort of, the de-industrialization that we saw in the 1970s and the 80s, and then the sort of boom in services, we haven't recognized engineering, manufacturing and exporters to the level that they need to be, and it's been a constant fight since, and it's certainly something that I've been passionately fighting about for all of my career, and now that I'm in a more supportive role of the industry, that's what I continue to do. The good news is that, again, I think the pandemic has highlighted the importance more, and having said that, we do quickly default back to services industries. I mean, something that I've said to policymakers and to ministers actually is, I find it fascinating that the most high profile business support scheme we put out there was Eat Out to Help Out. And I had nothing against Eat Out to Help Out, but where is the Eat Out to Help Out for our manufacturers to invest in manufacturing equipment, which to me is more value creating? And I know that people go, oh yeah, but I love my local restaurant, but it doesn't create the same sorts of jobs, long-term jobs, well-paid, skilled jobs into the future, And so, this is a battle and a lack of understanding that we have, and we just have to keep chipping away at it.
One of the questions we've just had come through now, obviously, as soon as I've said that's the end, we've had quite a few come through, but it's fine. Someone was saying they teach engineering at university, and they were saying, is there any advice for universities, or FE for that matter? What should they be saying to students to kind of prepare them for the future?
Well, I mean, I think, maybe not a bad place to go is actually to the Made Smarter review. And again, that's available on the madesmarter.uk website. And it was quite a well-researched piece of work. And I certainly know that Manchester Metropolitan University have now created this degree in industrial digitalization. Have not exactly used it as the curriculum, but they've certainly used it to help inform the the activities. And I think the other key thing to do, I mean, I'm very involved in Greater Manchester, just because that's where I live, in helping the local enterprise partnership and the local manufacturing community. And we are trying to get much better at connecting the manufacturing future skills requirement to especially the FE community. I mean, universities are a little bit better at it, but the really creating that connectivity. So I would say in whatever region you're in, and maybe the LEP can be a facilitator for that, to really work out what is that skills gap, what are the skills that we're looking for from people, and then creating those right apprenticeships for people. So that's something we're doing in Manchester.
I mean, that I guess ties in very neatly with them. So this is a question from Mehmet at Middlesex University, and he was saying, is there any scope in the Made Smarter offering to fund similar to those with like you get with KTP that involves SMEs jointly with universities to solve specific digitalisation agenda problems?
Yes, that's the one thing I didn't mention, because there's quite a lot happening, so it can get a bit confusing. But we're also launching a Made Smarter Research Hub program. As a matter of fact, the bids for that have already been out as well. So I mentioned the innovation hubs, which was more to engage, in sort of a demonstrator, so something that's already working. If you've got a problem that really hasn't been resolved yet, we're going a layer deeper than that and working with universities on research hubs, and bids are already in for that. And again, so there will be a number of Made Smarter research hubs that will emerge as well. I'm not sure whether Somerset University were aware or have bidded. I don't know, but lots of universities have. But again, these will be rolling things. I mean, we're hoping that this is a program that will be around for a long time.
Great stuff. There's been another couple of requests and just sort of questions that are a little bit more specific. So if it's okay with you, I'll forward those on after the event.
Of course.
Perfect. Well, that brings us very nearly to the end of our time. So I will take this opportunity just to wrap up and say a huge thank you to Juergen. Really appreciate you taking the time out and joining us today. I think it's been a really useful session. So thank you very much.
Thank you very much, James. Thank you, everybody, for listening, and wishing you all the very best in your COVID Brexit recovery and on your journeys on the fourth industrial revolution technology adoption. So thanks very much, everybody. All the best.
Great stuff. Thanks. And just a reminder to everyone that we've got more sessions tomorrow. We've got an update on Project Eli from the AMRC first thing tomorrow morning at 10 o'clock. At 11:30, we've then got Simple Steps to Automation for SMEs. So that's a panel discussion which is chaired by Mike Wilson of the MTC. And then finally tomorrow, we've got Howard Mitchell, who is Head of Innovation at HS2. And then on Thursday morning, we have a session on decarbonisation, which is being presented by Stephen Jeffers of Siemens. So if you'd like any more information on any of those or to register, if you go to the MACH website, the same route you went through to register for this session, you'll find all the details there. I'd also encourage people, as I have been all day, to check out the A to Z. It's got a list of all the exhibitors already booked for MACH 22, so you can have a look at the types of things that are on offer, as well as make contact ahead of the show next April. Again, there's a feedback form that pops up at the end of this. If you can take a couple of minutes just to fill that out, just gives us an idea, both with future content for agendas that we're putting together, as well as for tomorrow's sessions, in case there's anything we need to change. So finally, a huge thank you once again to Juergen, and I wish you all a pleasant rest of the day.